Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the delay there, the slight technical hitch, but we're underway now. Thanks everyone for coming. There is tea and coffee at the back if anyone wants to help themselves. So thank you for attending the Jags Foundation EGM. I just want to start by introducing your board. On my left, I've got Andrew Holloway, Treasurer. Outside, over on the left here, Ian McKinnon. To my farthest right, Stuart Callison. Next to me, Alan McGraw. And joining remotely, we have Graham Cowie, our Secretary, and Gary Tanner. We also have apologies from Heather Holloway, who has inescapable work commitments this evening, and Thistle Pins guru, Stuart Goldie, who is on vacation overseas. Now on to our guests. We have Louise Strutt, who you'll hear more from later, David Nicholl and Colin Orr. I will introduce them more fully before we hear from them later. I want you to firstly just give a little review of our activity. First on membership. 10 memberships expired at the end of August due to non-renewal of payment mandates, and this drops our membership number currently to 835 current members. There have been 213 new members, excluding rejoiners, in the last 30 days, 322 new members, excluding rejoiners, since the election, and membership is up by 69% since this board took over slightly more than 3 months ago. The past 3 months have been frustrating and time-consuming for your board, but also rewarding for the support we have had from all of you. There are things which have gone on which means it would have been far easier for us to walk away, and we suggest and suspect that these things were intended to make us do so. However, we respect the trust you put in all of us by electing us, and therefore we decided not to. I'm not going to paraphrase another Glasgow team at this point. We have serious misgivings about how the solution now being imposed on the fans was arrived at. Fan ownership ought to be, in our view, fan initiated, fan influenced, fan focused, and fan led. The PTFC Trust solution fails on many of these. We will say more on that when we can. If you wanted to help, anyone qualifying as a beneficiary who felt minded to do so could contact the PTFC Trust individually to request their minutes for the period since March 2022. Graham Cowie, our Secretary, can help you with drafting and provide contact details if required. We have not been idealistic in this process. We have tried to be realistic and pragmatic, and often compromised beyond the point we were personally comfortable with to try to come to a point that we could give you all a choice about whether you wanted the shares on that basis. Many of the accusations which trust and club board supporters have repeated about us, for example, about us wanting to sack the board en masse, are just completely untrue. In terms of working together with PTFC Trust, which several of you have mentioned during the recent survey, I would confirm. One, we have privately engaged with PTFC Trust twice on the minutes issue without meaningful response. Two, Randall Wilson said to me in an email in mid-August that he would like to have a chat sometime. I provided him with my telephone number. I have never heard from him. Three, I wrote to the PTFC trustee group last Sunday, suggesting a discussion before this evening. I provided times I was available for a call on Monday or offered them any time on Tuesday. I've had no response. Four, we had our lawyers write to them on the issue of the minutes only after making 2 requests and not getting a meaningful response. We still have had no sight of the minutes. So please be assured that we are trying to engage with them, but that's a two-way process. Personally, I would like us to move away from bashing them over the head every time they say something, but we are committed to pressing for the best possible deal here for the fans and our members, and are very committed to the best principles of fan ownership as we see them, as evidenced elsewhere, some of which you will hear from our guests this evening. There are clubs, for example, Brentford, where share ownership vehicles coexist beside other fan organisations. In the event that the share transfer does proceed as intended, we do not necessarily believe that means the end of TJF, but we will be advised on that by the thoughts of our members. I would like to add a personal comment after some self-reflection on this point. If someone was to ask me, have your board done their utmost to do everything you could to receive these shares? I would say wholeheartedly, yes. And I respect my board members enormously for the collective responsibility they've taken, especially when frustrations in dealing with 3 black cats reached their peak, as well, of course, as the hard work they have all put in. When COVID came along and we were relegated, the PTFC board and chair had to be robust in dealing with the league and other clubs. We think if a fans organisation is to flourish as an organisation, they cannot be entirely deferential. Sometimes they must also be robust. We continue to try to stand up for the fans on that basis, not to just be the awkward squad, but where we feel that an intervention is merited in the hope it can ultimately improve the most diluted version of fan ownership in UK football, which is the one before us just now. A recent survey of members shows our membership overwhelmingly support the notion that the Partick Thistle Football Club Trust is not a fitting recipient of the shares, and therefore that influences our immediate strategy. So that's enough from me. Let's move on to the formal business of the meeting, which shouldn't take long, which is the voting on the special resolution. Before doing so, just a final sincere thanks from me on behalf of the entire Jags Foundation board for the incredible support you've given us. We feel very lucky to have members like you. Now, the very exciting bit of the special resolution. What we think we're going to do is just take this by a raising of hands, and if it's close, we'll then move on to more formal voting. Proxies have been given out. There will be an online voting, and I'll hand over for Graham to describe that to the people joining us via Zoom. And we will add together the totals from proxy voting, hands raised in the room, and the online voting. So Andrew will count the votes in the room. Whilst we're doing that in the room, I'm going to hand over to Graham to explain to the online community how they go about voting.
Thank you, Sandy. This is going to be very straightforward. I'm firstly going to ask everybody who is calling in via Zoom who wants to support the adoption of the resolution, if they could please use the reaction raise hand button now. I'll give you another 10 seconds. Okay, could I ask you please to lower all of your hands? And if I could now ask all those against the adoption of the resolution, please to use the raise hand feature. I'll give you another 10 seconds. And if you could put your hands down now, only there doesn't appear to be any. I will hand back to Sandy in the room.
Thank you, Graham. If I could ask the people in the room to raise their hands when I ask them to do so, and just, oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do that right now. So the special resolution is that the regulations set out in the form produced to the meeting and initialed by the chairman for the purposes of identification be approved and adopted as the articles of association of the company to the exclusion of and in substitution for the existing articles of association of the company. These articles have been circulated with the notice of the meeting and are effectively to make the articles fit for the purpose of this vehicle moving forward. The off-the-shelf articles had been originally adopted when the company was formed and had never been made specific to an organisation like ours. Does that answer your question? So if we could raise hands for those in support of the motion to adopt a special resolution to change the articles, and just keep them up, please, so that we can do a count. And now anyone who wishes to vote against the resolution, could they raise their hands? Even I, as an accountant, can count that number. Thank you, everyone. Okay. And how did the Scott Grant vote? Okay, so it's 27 and okay, thanks everyone. The resolution is adopted with 125 votes for and 0 against. Thank you.